Sergeant Cole Riven sat alone at the edge of the outpost, staring at the endless alien sky. The twin suns of planet Veralia 9 were setting, painting the clouds in red and gold. It should have been beautiful. But for Cole, it only reminded him how far from Earth he was, and how alone. The war was over, at least that's what Command said. A fragile ceasefire had been signed 2 weeks ago between the United Human Colonies and the Zarkathi Empire, ending years of brutal space conflict. Most soldiers had been pulled back, but a few were still out here guarding forgotten borders. Cole was one of them. He didn't mind. He was used to quiet. After everything he'd seen during the war, silence was better than explosions. That evening, his scanner picked up something strange. A faint signal coming from deep in the jungle. It wasn't a human signal. It wasn't Zarkathi either. The transmission was weak, just a few broken tones, but it repeated every 17 seconds like a distress beacon. Curious, Cole grabbed his rifle and a small pack. He left a message at the outpost in case someone checked in, then headed into the thick green forest. The jungle was alive with strange sounds. Giant leaf bugs buzzed through the air. Trees moved slowly, reacting to light and shadow. It took Cole nearly an hour to reach the source of the signal. He found it in a clearing surrounded by glowing mushrooms. A small craft had crashed there. It was shaped like a teardrop, silver and blue with smoke rising from its engine. The front hatch was half open, and the ship looked damaged, but not too old. Cole approached carefully, his weapon lowered. "Hello?" he called out. "Anyone inside?" No answer. He stepped into the wreck. It was dark and quiet inside. Then he heard something. Soft breathing. Hiding in the corner were two small alien girls, barely 3 feet tall, huddled together in fear. Their skin was smooth and violet, with tiny glowing freckles on their cheeks. Their eyes were large, silver, and filled with fear. Cole froze. He recognized the species. They were Ilari, a mysterious race that rarely left their own part of the galaxy. Humans had almost no contact with them. Some people even thought they were just myths. The girls looked at him shaking. They were too scared to move, too scared to speak. Slowly, Cole took off his helmet and crouched down. "It's okay," he said gently. "I'm not going to hurt you." They didn't understand the words, but his tone was soft and his face kind. That made them relax. Just a little. He reached into his pocket and pulled out something small. His last chocolate bar. It was half melted, wrapped in silver foil. He smiled, tore off a piece and placed it on the floor in front of them. "This," he said softly, "is the best thing humans ever made." The girls stared at it. Then, slowly, one of them reached out and picked it up. She sniffed it, then passed it to her sister. The second girl took a small bite. Her eyes went wide. She made a quiet sound, half gasp, half giggle, and smiled, for the first time. Suddenly, both girls began to glow. Their skin shimmered with golden light, like sunlight reflecting off water. Cole stepped back surprised. He had never seen anything like it. The girls looked at him again, now with wonder. Instead of fear, they bowed their heads slightly, a sign of deep respect in some alien cultures. Cole laughed softly. "Well, that's a first," he said. "Guess you like the chocolate." He sat down slowly, giving them space. He watched them eat the small bar, sharing it piece by piece with care. It was clear now they weren't just hungry. That chocolate meant something to them, something important. After a few minutes, one of the girls pointed to herself and said, "Lura." The other said, "Seely." Cole smiled and nodded. "I'm Cole," he replied, tapping his chest. For the first time in a long while, the jungle felt peaceful. The stars were coming out above, and somewhere in the distance a native bird let out a soft song. Cole didn't know why the girls were here, or how they crashed, but he knew one thing. He couldn't leave them alone in the jungle. And deep down he had a strange feeling that this small act of kindness, this one piece of chocolate, had started something much bigger than he could understand. The next morning, sunlight filtered through the tall trees, casting long shadows across the forest floor. Sergeant Cole Riven awoke to the soft rustle of leaves. He sat up on a fallen log, looking around. The twin alien girls, Lura and Sali, were already stirring. They huddled together behind a moss-covered rock, watching him with large, curious eyes. Cole stood and offered a gentle wave. "Good morning," he said. Though they did not share his language, his tone was warm and safe. The twins tilted their heads in return, then turned to each other, whispering in a soft, musical tongue. Their voices sounded like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. Cole realized they must understand more than he first thought. He set down his pack and reached inside. This time he produced a clean cloth and some water from his canteen. He dipped the cloth in water and wiped his face. The twins watched closely. After a moment, Sally crept forward, holding out a small metal cup, her arms trembling with hope. Cole smiled and handed her the cloth to dip in his water. She did so carefully, then wiped her forehead. Laura followed, and soon both girls were cool and refreshed. Cole felt a quiet warmth in his chest. He understood now that small, kind acts could speak louder than words. He decided to find a safer place to stay for the day. The crash site was too open. Pirates or other dangers might come looking. He gestured for the twins to follow. At first, they hesitated, but when he motioned to the path, they rose and fell into step behind him, trusting his lead. The forest opened into a small clearing where a fast-moving stream glistened. Bright green ferns grew along its banks. Cole knelt and scooped water into his hands, inviting the twins to drink. They knelt beside him, cupping their hands and drinking deeply. The water tasted cool and fresh. Cole looked at the wrecked ship in the distance. It still smoldered. He did not know its cause, but he guessed it might carry more than just two girls. The Yalari were known to guard secrets. He wondered if the craft held messages or supplies the twins needed. As they rested, Cole tried to learn more. He pointed to himself and said slowly, "Cole." Lura repeated, "Cole." Then he pointed to the ship and made a crash motion with his hands uttering crash. The twins nodded. They seemed to understand these words. Next, Cole pointed to his sidearm and jacket pockets. He pulled out his ration pack and offered a small packet of protein paste. The twins sniffed but did not eat. Cole tasted it to show it was safe, but the girls only backed away. He realized that human food was not their preference. Determined, Cole reached deeper into his pack and pulled out a small package of dried fruit, apricots. He broke one in half, tasting it for sweetness. Then he offered it. Laura took a piece and chewed slowly. Her eyes lit up. Sally watched, then took a piece too. They passed the package back and forth. Cole smiled, pleased to share something new. The hunger eased, but Cole knew they needed more than food. They needed help. He knelt beside them and pointed back to the distant outpost. He said, "Safe," and made a cabin shape with his hands. Then he pointed to himself and said, "Come." The twins looked at each other, then at Cole. Finally, they nodded. Cole led them upstream along the river. They walked in silence, save for the gentle rush of water and the occasional call of a bright-winged bird. Every now and then, Cole glanced back to see the twins holding hands, trusting him completely. He felt a deep responsibility to protect them. After about an hour, they reached a fallen stone wall, remains of an ancient structure possibly built by the Yalari long ago. Cole smiled. This would make a good shelter. He guided the twins inside the broken walls. The stones were thick and strong, vines draped overhead, forming a natural roof. Sunlight pierced through gaps, creating patterns on the stone floor. Cole checked the area for danger. He set up a makeshift camp, his pack as pillow, a pile of leaves for insulation. He motioned for the twins to sit. Then he retrieved a small toolkit from his pack. He approached the twins and lightly tapped on the ground next to them, offering the tools. Puzzled, they watched him pick up a stick and carve a small notch. He etched simple lines in the soft soil, drawing two stick figures. One tall, one small, pointed to the tall figure and said, "Hunter." Then he pointed to Lura and Seely's figures and said, "Friend." The twins exchanged glances. They seemed to understand that he was their protector. Lura reached out and placed her small, violet hand on Cole's larger palm. He held it gently, feeling her heartbeat, a quick, shy flutter. Cole felt a swell of emotion. In the cold days of war, he had almost lost his capacity to care. But these small moments, sharing water, drawing pictures, holding hands, awoke something in him he thought he had buried forever. Hope. As evening approached, the birds returned to roost and the jungle grew quiet. Cole gathered sticks and started a small fire. The twins huddled close, their glowing freckles shining softly in the firelight. Cole sat with them, offering warmth and silence. He did not know what tomorrow would bring. Enemy patrols might pass by. The wrecked shipmen could be searching the forest. But for now, in the glow of the fire, Cole felt a fragile but powerful bond with the Ilari twins. He would keep them safe. And in return, they had shown him that even in the darkest times, simple kindness could light the way. Dawn's gentle light warmed the ancient stones of the Ilari ruin. Sergeant Cole Riven stood beside Lura and Seely as they awoke beneath the vine-covered archway. For a moment, all was calm. The two girls, skin still faintly glowing from yesterday's kindness, stretched and blinked at the pale sun. Cole offered them water from his canteen. They drank gratefully, their eyes reflecting quiet trust. Cole's mind raced with plans. He needed to get word to Allied Command that he had survivors, and that they might be in grave danger. He left the twins in the shelter and climbed a nearby rocky rise. From there, he could see his outpost in the distance, a few broken towers rising above the treetops. Beyond that lay unknown territories where old pirate bands roamed. Reaching into his pack, Cole pulled out a small battered transmitter. He checked its battery and antenna. The device had seen better days, but it was all he had. He flipped switches and set the frequency. Static hissed through the speaker. He cleared his throat. "Command, this is Riven," he called. "I am with 2 survivors, Ilari twins, on Varelia 9, grid sector 42B. Request immediate extraction." There was no reply, only static. Cole frowned. He tapped a sequence on the keypad, signaling again. This time he held the call open for longer. Still nothing. Frustrated, he slammed his fist against the transmitter. Then he noticed something odd. A soft click in the signal, a low hum. Someone was listening. Cole's heart pounded. He knew enough about communication security to suspect an interceptor. It could be pirates. Mercenaries often hacked channels to catch distress calls and follow rescue teams. The thought of armed strangers hunting down the Ilari twins made his blood run cold. He turned and hurried back down the slope, keeping low among the ferns. When he reached the ruin, Lura and Seely looked up, puzzled by his sudden urgency. Cole knelt before them. "We tried to call help," he said in the broken Ilari words he was learning. "But someone is listening. Bad people. They know you are here." The twins exchanged frightened glances. Lura grabbed Seely's hand. They looked. To Cole for guidance, Cole took a deep breath. He pointed to himself and then to the transmitter. "Cole protects," he said firmly. He tapped his chest and then held out a hand, palm up. Lura placed her hand in his. Seely followed. Together the 3 stood side by side. Cole gathered his supplies. He strapped the transmitter to his belt and tucked his rifle within easy reach. He motioned for the twins to follow. "Stay close," he warned. Then he scanned the tree line. No one was in sight, but he knew the pirates would not wait long. They moved quickly through the undergrowth, following a narrow animal trail Cole had spotted on his way up. Seely glanced back, her silver eyes wide. Cole reached out and gently squeezed her shoulder. "Safe soon," he promised. As they walked, Cole noticed strange footprints in the damp soil, boot prints mixed with animal tracks. He crouched to inspect them. The boots were too large to be his own, and the tread matched known pirate patterns. Someone had come this way not long ago. He nodded to himself and led the twins onward, choosing a denser part of the jungle for cover. The ferns here grew taller than a man's waist. Bright fungi glowed on the tree trunks, casting an eerie light. Cole kept his eyes sharp for movement. After 10 minutes, they reached a shallow ravine. A thin stream ran through it, and low-hanging vines formed a natural curtain. Cole crouched behind a mossy rock and whispered, "Hide." He pushed the vines aside and peered into the ravine bottom. 3 figures crept along the opposite side, weapons slung. Their armor was patched and mismatched, typical of pirate scavengers. One held a scanning device, its green beam sweeping over the trees. Cole counted their movements carefully. The pirates were heading toward the old wall where Cole had sheltered the twins. He turned and whispered to Lura and Sally, "Quiet. Hide here." He found a small hollow under a fallen log. Gently, he tucked the girls inside and covered the opening with leaves and branches. Their violet skin glowed faintly in the dim light, making Cole worry they might still be seen. He laid his jacket over them for camouflage. Cole rose and took position at the top of the ravine. He fitted his scope to his rifle and watched. The pirates paused by the fallen wall. The lead pirate scanned the area with his device. "There," he hissed. "Signal trace. They're close." Cole's finger hovered near the trigger. He wanted to wait until they reached the ruin, but then he saw Lura stirring inside the hollow. She pressed her cheek against the log, wide-eyed. Cole's jaw clenched. He could not let them be captured. He took a steady breath and squeezed the trigger. The shot rang out, echoing through the ravine. A tree branch snapped nearby, drawing the pirates' attention. They spun around and fired blind shots toward Cole's position. He ducked behind a stone, returning fire. Bullets chipped at the rock. Cole fired 3 more precise shots. The pirates screamed and fell back, clutching wounds. With a final shot, Cole sent the scanning device spinning into the mud, sparks flashing. The remaining pirate dropped his weapon and ran. Silence fell again, broken only by the girls' soft whimpers. Cole crept back to the hollow and pulled aside the branches. Lura and Seely clung to each other, faces pale. Cole lifted them out one by one and held them close. Their violet skin flickered between soft gold and silver, a sign of relief. He brushed dirt from their faces and whispered, "Safe now. Go back to the ruin. I will meet you there." Cole scrambled up the ravine, rifle slung over his shoulder. He paused at the top, glancing back once. No sign of the pirates. He wiped his brow and set off through the thick ferns, determined to lead the twins to real safety. As Cole hurried away, he felt something new stirring inside him, a fierce protectiveness. Driven by more than duty, he would defend these girls with his life, and whatever secrets the Yalari twins held, he would guard them until help arrived, or until he became the help they needed most. Sergeant Cole Riven led Lura and Seely farther into the thick jungle. His heart still pounded from the fight, but he knew they needed shelter and answers. He followed a narrow path that wound beside a slow river. Mist rose from the water and curled around tall ferns. Sunlight broke through in thin beams, making the drops on the leaves sparkle like tiny stars. Cole paused to breathe. The air smelled of wet earth and green leaves. He glanced at the twins. Their violet skin glowed faintly, and they walked close, together, their small hands nearly touching his leg. After 20 minutes, they came upon a hidden archway carved into a mossy rock face. The arch was half covered by vines and roots. Strange symbols were etched into the stone, spiral shapes, simple figures of people, and what looked like a river of light. Cole crouched beside Lura and traced one symbol with his finger. It felt warm under his skin. Seely watched him, her silver eyes bright with wonder. Cole reached out and gently pushed the vines aside, making an opening just wide enough for them to enter. The girls stepped in first and he followed, keeping his rifle ready. Inside, the air was cool and still. The chamber was lit by soft blue light that shone from glowing crystals embedded in the walls. Carved columns stood like silent guards, each one carved in the shape of a Yalari warrior. Their arms were raised as if holding up the ceiling. Cole's boots echoed on the smooth stone floor. He felt a quiet hum in the air, as though the place itself was alive. Laura and Celie ran ahead, their small feet making soft sounds. They looked at the carvings and touched them with wonder. Every time they touched a crystal, it pulsed gently, sending ripples of light across the walls. Cole watched them, feeling both awe and a strange sense of calm. He moved deeper into the chamber, his eyes adjusting to the blue glow. He noticed a low altar at the far end, covered in dust and broken pieces of metal. On the altar was a shallow bowl carved from the same stone as the walls. Faded lines on the bowl showed two small figures offering something to a larger figure. Cole knelt and cleared the dust with his palm. He did not understand the image, but he sensed it had something to do with the twins. Suddenly, Laura and Celie placed their hands on the altar. Their skin glowed more brightly now, a warm gold that spread across their arms. The crystals in the walls flared in response, bathing the chamber in golden light. Cole stood and felt a pulse run through his body, like a soft shock of energy. His skin tingled, and for a moment he saw the air around him shimmer as if filled with tiny moving lights. He blinked and the vision was gone. He rubbed his eyes, but the ringing in his hee-haw did not fade. Laura looked at Cole with concern. She traced a finger along his temple and whispered a sound he did not know. Celie repeated the sound softly, then touched Cole's chest. Cole felt another pulse, stronger this time. He heard distant voices in his mind, whispers like leaves rustling in the wind. He closed his eyes and focused. The voices grew clearer. They spoke of guardians, of a promise to protect, of a path forward. Cole felt his own thoughts flow in harmony with the twins, as if they had tapped into a shared memory. When he opened his eyes, he saw the chamber differently. He could make out faint lines in the stone he had not noticed before, an old map pointing beyond the temple. He saw hidden doors, secret paths, and the way back through the jungle. His breathing steadied. He knew what he had to do next. At that moment, a distant roar echoed through the rock. Cole's new senses picked up heavy steps approaching, many steps moving fast. He put a hand on each twin's shoulder. "Danger," he murmured, using the word they had practiced. Laura and Celie nodded, their glow now pure silver. They followed Cole as he led them toward a side corridor revealed by the glowing map lines. The corridor narrowed quickly and sloped upward. Vines blocked the far end, but Cole used his rifle butt to shove them aside. The three hurried through into a narrow tunnel lined with smooth stone. Water dripped from the ceiling, and the air smelled damp. Cole kept his hand on the boys' backs, guiding them by touch as much as sight. He could feel the energy of the temple guiding him like a gentle push forward. The whispers in his mind faded, leaving only a clear sense of direction. They emerged into daylight on a high ledge overlooking a valley. Mist still hovered over the trees below. Cole set the twins down and pointed to the view. He said, "Safe path." The twins watched the valley, then looked back at him and smiled. Cole smiled too, feeling the first hope he had known since the crash. He knelt beside them. "We go down," he said, tracing a line on the ground with his finger. Then, he tapped his helmet and said, "Home." The twins nodded. They shared one last look at the hidden temple. Then together they began to climb down into the valley, following the promise of a way home that the twins had awakened, and the strange new gift that bonded them all. Sergeant Cole Riven led Laura and Celie down the narrow path into a clearing filled with ancient Ilari ruins. Moss-covered stones formed broken walls and pillars. A small stream cut through the center, its water clear and cool. Cole's senses, sharpened by the twins' gift, picked up every sound: dripping water, rustling leaves, and distant footsteps. Cole knelt and studied the ground. He gathered long sticks and palm fronds, then began to dig shallow pits just off the main path. He covered each pit with loose leaves and thin branches, hiding them from view. Nearby, he strung thin vines between trees, setting simple tripwires that would snap logs into falling positions. He worked quickly but carefully, knowing these traps might be the only way to slow down an enemy. When the traps were set, Cole led Laura and Celie to a small hollow beneath a collapsed pillar. "Here," he whispered, patting the ground. The twins understood. They settled behind the stone, their glowing freckles dimming in the shadow. Cole handed each of them a small pouch of dried fruit. "Stay quiet," he said, pressing a finger to his lips. They nodded, their silver eyes steady. Cole returned to the center of the clearing and crouched behind a low wall. He checked his rifle and took a deep breath. The jungle grew still as if holding its breath. Moments later, he heard soft voices and metal clinking. A group of 5 pirates stepped into the clearing, weapons drawn. They wore battered armor with a faded red stripe, markings of Vask Thorn's mercenary band. As the first pirate walked over the hidden pit, Cole waited until the man was close. Then he pressed the trigger. The pit gave way and the pirate fell in with a sharp cry. The sudden movement tripped the vine at the edge, sending a log swinging through the air. It struck another pirate's leg and he went down with a grunt. The remaining 3 spun toward Cole's hiding spot. Cole rose and fired 2 quick shots. His aim, honed by the twins' influence, put one pirate out of action and sent another stumbling back. The third tried to rush Cole but tripped over a tripwire and fell face first into the mud. Cole kicked the man's rifle away and stood over him, breathing hard. The jungle air tasted sweet with rain and earth. Only one pirate was left on his feet. He drew a small pistol and fired, grazing Cole's shoulder. The pain was sharp but not deep. Cole winced, then used his new reflexes to dive behind a pillar. He peered around and saw the pirate scrambling for cover near the stream. Before the man could fire again, Cole aimed and fired. The shot rang true. The pirate dropped the weapon and held up his hands in surrender. Cole stepped forward, keeping his rifle trained. "Leave," he said firmly. The pirate nodded and backed away, limping toward the trees. Cole watched him go until the man disappeared among the ferns. Then he lowered his rifle and exhaled slowly. A distant roar echoed through the clearing. Cole looked up as a sleek hovercraft descended and landed with a hiss of steam. A tall figure stepped out, Vask Thorn, the pirate commander. He wore a long, dark coat and carried a high-tech scanner in one hand. His face was smooth and cold, with a thin scar across his left cheek. Thorn walked toward Cole, his boots making soft thuds on the stone floor. "Well done, soldier," he said, voice low and mocking. "You handle my men with skill, but you are in my territory now." Cole stood his ground. "Stay back," he warned. "You hurt them. You answer to me." Thorn smiled, lifting the scanner. A beam of green light swept across the clearing and settled on Laura and Celie, who watched from their hiding spot. The twins glowed softly under the light. The scanner beeped and displayed data in Thorn's visor. "Ah," he said. "So the legends are true. You carry the map in your genes, do you?" "2 living star charts," he murmured. "I thought they were lost." Cole felt a chill. "They are not yours," he said, voice steady despite the fear in his gut. Thorn clicked the scanner off and pocketed it. "That map leads to a power source older than any human empire. With it, I can control the galaxy's energy. Hand them over or you will both fall today." He aimed a pistol at Cole's chest. Cole tightened his grip on his rifle. He took a step forward, but Thorn's hovercraft hatch opened with a hiss. 2 armored pirates stepped out, guns raised. "We have time," Thorn said, voice calm as water. "Choose wisely, soldier." Cole looked at Laura and Celie. Their eyes met his with trust. In that moment, he made his choice. He turned and sprinted toward the stream. Behind him, Thorn shouted orders. Gunfire echoed through the ruin. Bullets splashed water around Cole's feet, but he didn't stop. He scooped up Celie in one arm, then lunged for Laura with his free hand. The twins wrapped their arms around him as he dashed toward a narrow gap in the vines. Another burst of fire tore through a nearby pillar, but Cole slipped through the opening and plunged into the jungle. He did not look back until he reached a safe distance. The ruins lay silent behind him, save for the distant hum of the hovercraft. Engines. Cole slowed to a walk, carrying both girls against his chest. Their breathing was quick but steady. He paused and set them gently on the ground. "Are you all right?" he asked, brushing dirt from their cheeks. They nodded, their skin flickering between silver and gold. a sign of relief. Cole squared his shoulders. The first clash was over, but he knew the true battle had just begun. He would find a way to protect the twins and the ancient map they carried, no matter the cost. Sergeant Cole Riven led Lura and Celie deeper into the valley, the jungle growing darker around them. Their path wound between towering ferns and thick vines that brushed their shoulders. Each step echoed in the silent air. Cole glanced back to make sure the twins stayed close. Their small hands gripped his uniform, trusting him completely. He could feel his heart pound with both fear and resolve. Ahead, the ancient Ilari temple loomed, half hidden by moss and roots. This was their last hope. Cole pushed aside a heavy vine to reveal a carved stone doorway. Strange runes glowed faintly along its edges. He paused, studying the symbols by the light of the twins' natural glow. Celie reached out and placed her hand on the doorframe. The runes pulsed, and the heavy stone slabs began to slide inward with a low rumble. Dust fell like soft rain, and a cool breeze swept past them. Cole lifted the twins through the opening one by one. Inside, rows of silent columns formed a circle around a central dais. The dais held a shallow circular basin carved from white stone. Cracked lines ran like rivers across its surface. Cole knelt beside it and brushed away the dust. He felt a faint hum in the air as he did so. Lura and Celie stepped forward together and laid their hands in the basin. Immediately, golden light spread from their palms and filled the chamber. The columns shone and the ground vibrated under Cole's boots. He stepped back in wonder. Above them, carved symbols on the ceiling began to shift, as if ancient gears turned unseen. Outside, the jungle trembled. Roots sank into the earth, forming walls that rose 15 feet high. Thick vines wove together, creating a living barrier around the temple. The stream that ran nearby changed course, turning into a shallow moat. Stone guardians, massive golems, shaped like Ilari warriors, stood motionless at first. Then their eyes glowed silver blue. They stepped off their pedestals, each movement slow but powerful. Leaves and moss fell from their broad shoulders. The air filled with soft clanks as they took their positions. A distant roar cut through the sounds of awakening machinery. Cole raced to the doorway and peered into the fading light. Hovercraft engines whined, and Vaskthorn's red-striped mercenaries poured from the trees. They fired bursts of plasma at the vine walls. Sparks flew where bolts struck living wood. The vines writhed, absorbing energy and sending it back in gentle pulses. The mercenaries retreated, confusion flashing in their eyes. Thorn stomped forward, pistol raised. He shouted an order, but his voice was lost in the roar of the defense system. Cole dropped to one knee beside the dais and touched the basin again. He closed his eyes and focused on the bond he felt with Lura and Celie. In his mind, he heard soft whispers, ancient Ilari words for protect, guide, and stand together. He reached out with his thoughts, guided by the twins' shared energy. A single golem nearest the dais stirred and lifted a massive stone hammer. It stepped forward with a thunderous stride. Cole nodded and pointed toward the mercenaries. The golem obeyed, lifting its hammer high and charging into the clearing. The clash was both terrifying and beautiful. The golem's hammer struck hovercraft armor with a burst of light. Metal bent and cracked under the force. Cole fired his rifle at advancing mercenaries, each shot precise and true. Lura and Celie stood on the dais, their hands raised, their glow steady and strong. Energy waves pulsed from the basin, sending shock ripples across the ground. Other golems joined the fight, forming a circle of living stone around the twins. Cole darted between them, guiding their fire and shouting encouragement. As the battle reached its peak, Cole faced Vaskthorn in the center of the clearing. The commander gripped his pistol with white-knuckled determination. Around them, mercenaries either surrendered or fell back under the golem's might. Cole raised his rifle but did not fire. He took a careful step forward. "It is over," Cole said, his voice calm but firm. Thorn's eyes narrowed. He glanced at the twins, then at the massive golems. He swallowed hard and lowered his weapon. Thorn signaled his remaining men to stand down. They dropped their weapons and raised their hands in surrender. The golden glow around Lura and Seli faded into a soft silver as they stepped off the dais. The vines uncoiled, lowering the living walls back into the earth. The golems returned to their pedestals, motionless once more. Morning light filtered through the broken columns, casting gentle shadows across the stone floor. Cole walked to the dais and lifted the twins in his arms. Their small bodies fit easily against his chest. He smiled down at them. Lura and Seely wrapped their arms around his neck. Then they both placed a hand on his helmet in thanks. Cole felt the warmth of their touch and knew the bond would last, far beyond this day. He carried them out of the temple into the bright sunlight, victorious at last. Morning light broke through the jungle canopy as rescue shuttles descended on the hidden valley. Sergeant Cole Riven helped Lura and Seely from the hover platform onto the soft grass. The twins' violet skin glowed softly in the dawn, and their silver eyes shone with relief. Around them, human soldiers in clean uniforms stood at attention. Medics hurried forward with supplies, and cameras recorded every moment. Cole held the twins gently, guiding them step by step toward safety. A senior officer stepped forward and saluted Cole. "Sergeant Riven," she said, "on behalf of the United Human Colonies, we thank you for your courage. These young Ilari twins are now under our protection." Cole bowed his head in respect. He felt pride at the officer's words, but his thoughts stayed with Lura and Seely. He knew they had saved him as much as he had saved them. Lura and Seely looked around with wonder. They saw tall human buildings in the distance and many faces, soldiers, scientists, and diplomats waiting to greet them. The twins held each other's hands tightly until they recognized an equally small figure stepping forward, an elder Ilari envoy who had answered their last cry for help. The envoy's skin glowed gold with joy. She knelt before the twins and whispered in their soft language. Lura and Seely bowed deeply, then pointed to Cole and spoke his name. The envoy rose and placed her hand over her heart. She stepped toward Cole and presented him with a delicate necklace carved from the same stone as the ancient temple basin. The stone was cool and smooth, with faint glowing lines that pulsed like a heartbeat. "Guardian of Ilari," the envoy said in broken common speech. "No human has ever received this honor." Cole's chest tightened. He accepted the necklace and fastened it around his neck. Diplomats from the United Human Colonies and the Ilari High Council arrived soon after. They met beneath a grove of giant ferns. Each side spoke with measured words, sharing hopes for peace and alliance. Cole stood quietly at the edge, watching the talks unfold. Whenever a Ilari envoy mentioned the twins, Lura and Seely stepped forward, placing a small violet hand in each diplomat's palm. Their gentle glow softened the mood and reminded everyone why peace was worth the effort. By midday, the first treaty between humans and Ilari was signed on a simple wooden table carved by Ilari artisans. Cole was not one of the signers, but he stood beside the twins as they dipped their fingertips into a bowl of glowing water, a Ilari tradition symbolizing unity. He felt the cool liquid brush his fingers as Lura and Seely gently guided his hand. Together they pressed their 3 fingertips onto the parchment, leaving a shining mark that faded back to pale violet when the ritual ended. The treaty promised new trade routes, joint research on the star map encoded in the twins' DNA, and shared responsibility to protect remote worlds. It also declared the temple in the valley a sanctuary under both human and Ilari guardianship. When Cole learned this, he placed a hand on his heart and felt the weight of his new duty settle warmly in his chest. As the sun set on the signing ceremony, Cole sat by a small fire with Lura and Seely. He unwrapped a fresh bar of chocolate, a gift from the Allied commanders. He broke it into 3 equal pieces and offered one to each twin. Their eyes brightened as they tasted something both familiar and new. Then Lura and Seely reached into a pouch and gave Cole 2 small seeds shaped like shining pearls. "Plant," Lura whispered. "Grow." Cole nodded. He carefully tucked the seeds into the soil beside the fire. Later, he walked to the edge of the clearing and looked up at the twin suns dipping behind the trees. He thought of Earth, far across the stars, and of the lonely days before he met the twins. Now his life was forever changed. He was a soldier, a friend, and a guardian of a new alliance. He felt hope and purpose stronger than any battle he had ever fought. In the following days, Cole prepared to return to the frontier, this time as a delegate and protector. Lura and Selly would journey with him, carrying the living star map that would guide explorers to new worlds. Behind him, the Alari temple stood silent and proud, its hidden chambers once again at peace. As the rescue shuttles lifted off, Cole watched the valley grow smaller. Lura and Selly stood with him on the platform, hands clasped over his heart. He smiled and whispered, "We go together." The twins nodded, their skin glowing in soft harmony. Together they set a course for a new era, a time when kindness, bravery, and simple gifts could unite two very different worlds.